So what we'll do first is just get some introductions done so everybody knows who's in the room. And I'm going to go to my right because he was the first one here. And we're going to do this real quick, just straight around the room, just name and organization so we know who's here. So, Tim, do you want to lead off?
Yeah, Tim Laubacker with Launch Easy.
And speak up. We got people hundreds of miles away, or tens of miles away.
Hi, Jackie Valier from Hype. Kim Bishop from Hype.
Ryan Keating from the Keating Agency.
David Salinas from District and Digital Surgeon.
Excellent. Joe?
Joe Zweibel, Hartford Business Journal. Good morning.
Eric?
Eric Knight, Remarkable Technologies.
Okay, now the hard part is people on the phone. At least the benefit in the room is I had a lot of good nonverbals helping me. So could someone, what I'll do is if you just say hi, I'll recognize you, and then you can introduce yourself. So go ahead.
Hey. Hi.
Go ahead.
It's Ojala with Reset.
All right, thanks, Ojala.
Hi,
Go ahead, Fred.
I'm sorry, Fred Wergley, University of Hartford Entrepreneurial Center.
Excellent, thanks, Fred.
Hi, Melena here from the Women's Business Center.
Say that again, Melena.
Hi, Melena from the Women's Business Center, University of Hartford.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hey, Cheryl.
Yeah.
Go, Cheryl.
Hey, thank you. This is Cheryl Rice over at CVG.
Excellent, thanks, Cheryl.
Hi, this is...
I'm going to try to go. It's Nan Price from Innovation Destination Hartford.
Got you, Nan. Thanks.
Hi, this is Richard Guha with CT Next.
Thanks, Richard.
Hi, this is Mom.
Sorry.
I think I heard Marianne.
Yes, Marianne Rupp from CVG. And
thanks, Marianne.
Hi, good morning. It's Jessica Dodge from CT Next.
Welcome, Jessica.
And this is Molly from Kinesis.
Welcome, Molly.
Hi, this is Julia Rivera from Trinity College.
Hi, Julia. Thank you. Anyone else on the phone?
Pauline Asenza from Western Connecticut State University.
Thanks, Pauline. Good to hear you. Anyone else?
And Bruce Carlson from CTC.
Fantastic. Thanks, Bruce.
And this is Michaela from Wesleyan.
Welcome, Michaela. Anyone else? Well, that's a good turnout. I appreciate you all being here today. So we've got a robust agenda, and I'm going to test something out on you all. This is just a draft statement of purpose, and we can feedback now or if anyone has feedback later, but I was trying to think of, we want to, as a group, have a common destination, and so I just threw this down. Again, feedback's great, and you even email me, feedback is fine. But essentially, in doing this summit, and just so you all know, this Connecticut Entrepreneur Summit is a placeholder name. We haven't, divined that is the name. We've got a team working on it, but having a common purpose will help them very much in terms of giving us recommendations in terms of the name. But in any event, the idea is to release all of Connecticut's potential entrepreneurial economic energy. It's easier to write than to say, I think. But in any event, again, there are so many things that go into that. I thought that was kind of a easy true north for us. But again, you may have thoughts or edits, which are all totally fine, and we'll adjust with your comments. But just assuming that for the moment, and again, open to adjustments, here's our agenda for today is I want to give a quick update. I think many of you know we had a booth, thank you, Joe, at the Connecticut Business Summit last week. That worked out really well. I'm just going to give a quick update on that and certainly invite others that were there to give their thoughts as well. Marianne and Cheryl, thank you for joining us. We'd love an update on Innovation Week, and many of you, this is something new that you're probably maybe just hearing about for the first time. We want to get an update on that in terms of what that event or event series will be so that we are complementing that as much as we can. And then we'll get feedback from the teams that have been working independently. We have the team working on engagement, on marketing, content, and special events. And then just a quick notice on a brown bag session that'll happen a week from Monday, about 10 days away, which will be just sort of a simple brown bag session on LaunchEasy, which, for those that don't know, that's the platform that powers our statewide entrepreneur event calendar. And so there's some great opportunities to sort of take advantage of more functionality within that system. And then we'll talk about next steps, and it'll be noon, and then we'll leave. That'll be it. So with that, let's pop into it. I'd invite Tim and Michaela, Paige isn't on, and Deborah's not on, but certainly Tim and Elena, if you want any other add any other comments to this. But so I was in the booth for. I'm just going to stop for a sec. For those that are remote, if you wouldn't mind, if you're not speaking, if you could go on mute, that's going to help our sound quality a bit. Whether you are ordering a hamburger or something, any background noise definitely affects our sound quality. With regard to the Business Summit, we had a 10 by 20 booth there. We had really good traffic as we went through the day. I was there in the booth for about 2.5 hours, and everyone that I talked to, and we had plenty of people stop. We had a banner from the Connecticut Entrepreneur Awards, which were back in April, and so that's what got people to stop pretty much. But as we talked to them about the Business Summit or doing an Entrepreneur Summit, every single person that I mentioned that to gave us their card, and they wanted to stay up to date in terms of as we got it planned, in terms of being able to participate and so on. So, at least my experience was 100% of the people I talked to were interested in at least knowing more and potentially participating. I did talk to two people that represented corporations, AT&T and UHY, and unsolicited, they said, we'd love to be a part of that and love to support it. So, we've got some follow-up meetings with them, so there may be potential sponsor opportunities or other types of participation that they might want to do. So, I think there's some interesting things. And actually, the guy from AT&T helps entrepreneurial ventures access AT&T's API and their infrastructure to engage innovation companies. So kind of interesting there. But Tim or Milena, any other observations or comments?
Did you? How many cards do we get, and do we have like a plan to follow up? Like, what's the
we got about 45 contacts from that, so not overwhelming, but still, these were people that opted in, and specifically for interest in the Entrepreneur Summit. So yeah, we'll I think as we get a little more solid, maybe midsummer or whatnot, send out a note and communicate to those folks. And I think we also have our list from the Connecticut Entrepreneur Awards and so on that we can begin communicating out to. But Milena, any thoughts?
Yeah, no, I mean, I did pretty much along the lines of what you said. I was there for about an hour, but I had view of the booth from where I was the rest of the day. So for the light traffic that was at the expo, I think the traffic was great. It helped that there were some workshops just across the passage, so that helped. And pretty much everybody either knew of the Entrepreneur Awards or had been there, or they were interested in attending. And the summit, just like you said, pretty much everybody I talked to ended up putting a card, and great excitement on the summit. I mean, I also talked about the calendar, so there was some interest in that. So I think all in all, positive. It was good that there was some awareness already. People had heard about it, but the ones that hadn't were really interested in being part of it.
Right. Cool. Awesome. Well, that's really good. And again, I think we'll have more exposure opportunities. And again, thank you, Joe, for that opportunity. So, Marianne, I know this may not be totally representative of Innovation Week, but I figured I'd at least throw what what at least we thought Innovation Week was up here, so that you could correct it if you came, or you could, or I could have something to reference if I were going to share it with folks. So, do you want to talk about Innovation Week? Give us a couple-minute overview of what Innovation Week is, and we'll adjust this slide appropriately. Marianne, if you're on mute, you may want to come off mute because we can't hear you yet.
Thank you. I was on mute. Thank you. So, many of you, and Jessica Dodge is on the phone from CT Next, and she's very involved with the Venture Clash, which is on Friday, October 20th at Yale. And hopefully, Jessica, you can talk a little bit about that after I share with the group what we're doing Monday through Thursday. So there are some folks that are working with me, and CT and CVG is leading this effort for innovation. It's going to be an innovation week that is really surrounding most of CVG's mission of connecting investors and potential high-growth, promising entrepreneurs, which is what we do every day and every month. For many of you that have been to CVG events, if you haven't yet, you should be coming to one. Every month we move around the state. Last week we had one in Stamford. The month before it was at Fairfield University, Hartford, Innovate Hartford. We have them in Groton, so we move around the state. We have a session that's invitation only that is for investors and entrepreneurs, that the entrepreneurs that are Rise entrepreneurs, folks that are in the process of raising capital or soon to be raising capital.
Hey, Marianne?
Yes.
Marianne, we are on pretty limited time.
Yes.
So if we could get to Innovation Week, that'd be great.
I will. But I want folks to understand CVG first, because what you had written in there wasn't correct about CVG, so I want to clarify that.
Okay.
We work with entrepreneurs that might already be in revenues. They may not be in revenues. They're looking to raise capital in order to launch and scale. And so we have the investor one-on-one sessions first. And then we open up to the public. These companies do a pitch not only to the investors in the room, but to all the resources around the state that can provide different resources that they need in order to launch and scale their business. So it's a way to connect them to their next steps, and they make connections to help them get to meet their next step needs. Our Innovation Week is going to be really geared all around that. Every morning, we will be, Monday through Thursday, we will be having sessions on with entrepreneurs around the state to meet investors. We'll have investors there not only from our Connecticut CVG network and New York and beyond, but also we'll have a very active investor, Paul Singh, who was an early AOL guy, and he does this tech tour around the country. He has his big RV, and he spends time and brings some of his investors from out of state into the state, and we'll have some of his investors with us each day. And then we will also have panels. We have some folks coming from, for instance, 1776. Evan Bernfield, who's the founder and CEO of 1776. For many of you know, that's a very popular and successful accelerator in Philadelphia. We have folks coming from Boston, New York, and many other places, investors as well as folks that drive entrepreneur growth, whether it be through accelerators or other ways. One day, on Tuesday, and this I think is important for folks that are on the phone, I heard several of the universities are on the phone. On Tuesday, I should back up. On Monday, Innovation Week will be in Hartford. There's plans to have multiple folks, potentially from the governor's office and many other folks to help to kick off the event. On Tuesday is going to be in at Fairfield University, and the focus that day is going to be on university-led startups. I think I've talked with a couple of the folks on the call, but I will be reaching out to each of you to have every university to participate on that day. On Wednesday, we'll be at Quinnipiac, and that will be an event that's focused on a variety of topics and panelists. And then Thursday will be Wednesday will be at Cure in Groton, focusing on talent. Thursday will be at Quinnipiac. And then Friday is the Venture Clash. And our goal on Thursday is to really have a variety of areas focused on the investor community, because we want as many investors there on Thursday as possible, ones that are coming from out of state, so that they will stay for Friday's Venture Clash. So our goal here is to connect as many of the rising entrepreneurs around the state with the investment community, and everything will be geared around that, as well as there'll be on the different panels that we'll have 2 panels a day in the afternoon, and that will really provide a lot of information to entrepreneurs about what they need to do, how they need to connect into the ecosystem, what they need to grow, and things they need to be thinking about, and strategies, etc.
Cool.
So,
Thank you, Marianne. That's really helpful. We do, as I said, we do need to move on with the rest of our agenda, but definitely appreciate the update and getting some knowledge about Innovation Week. And I think what we'll look to do is see where our plans complement and where we can help support what you're doing as much as possible. Where we're targeting is probably in the other part of the year, probably in the spring versus the fall. So I think there's certainly a lot of opportunity to complement what you're doing.
Great, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Cool. And I would suggest we can talk. These meetings are so condensed. We're trying to get a lot out in one, but we can talk offline. Anyone that has questions about this, and we can create dialogue between certainly CVG and what they're putting together with Innovation Week, and Marianne and Cheryl, and then certainly Venture Clash and Jessica, who's already deeply involved in what we're doing as well. So all good for sure. So let's hop into our teams, and what we'd like to do is just for those that kind of aren't up to date on this, we have 4 teams that from our last meeting formed and went out and we're looking at special sort of aspects of what we're looking to do and kind of taking a deeper dive into it. And the goal is that they're at different states. Some of them could move a little faster because there was more clarity, and for others they were more sort of moving and putting some ideas down. But there were teams whose work will sort of help inform more specifics of what they're looking to do. But I think in each case, what we're looking for today is to get sort of an update, maybe some things that we can give some feedback for. And the first team that we want to hear from is the Engage team. And so what their goal is, and Richard is going to be representing the team today, but their goal is really to look at, how do we make sure that everybody who should be in the room is in the room to help us here at the formation stage. So, certainly as an organization, we're looking for geographic diversity, certainly through the state, in terms of how we're represented and who we're looking to serve. We're certainly looking for, any other type of diversity as well, whether that's gender, orientation, ethnicity, et cetera, et cetera. So even disciplines, creatives, techs, we love them all equally. So, Richard, do you want to bring us up to speed on what your team is working on and what your next steps are?
Sure. The excuse of the busy is that we've been focusing on strategy, but which actually makes sense anyway, rather than just randomly making phone calls. We've identified a number of entities, primarily at this point in time, sort of governmental or quasi-governmental, We're also going to identify large corporations, which is actually interesting. And by the way, Jessica, there may be some overlap or potential overlap with Venture Clash, because some of the companies we've started identifying are also sponsors or involved in Venture Clash. And we've got to be a bit careful we don't get signals crossed here, because if, for example, we decide we want to get the Hartford or Webster Bank or someone like that involved, which makes total sense as entities, again, we want to make sure we don't have multiple lines of communication going in there. So perhaps Jessica or Lauren from CT Next also may at some point want to be involved or need to be involved in this process. We're probably going to need, right now there are only 3 of us, and it is potentially, and we just don't know until we got the list, but what we're going to do is when we have the full list, we'll start prioritizing them. And depending on how many people we have available to make some of those contacts, and some contacts will be easier than others. In other words, sometimes you make one phone call and they'll say, absolutely fantastic, yeah, here we go. But those will be few and far between. Some of them may require a fair bit of contacting. So what we'll do is, having prioritized those people, and we very much appreciate input in terms of who should be on. And by the way, if your organization or an organization you're very close to you think should be on it, please let us know, because that also will have an impact. In other words, there may be some organization we really want but it's difficult, and someone else who's maybe we'd like but don't really want but who's easy, and we will go for that too. So then certainly the next time we go through, we will have that list, we will have it prioritized, we'll have identified what needs to be done by whom, when, where. At this point in time, I'm not going to just read off what we've got, because that'll bore everyone to death, and we may have gotten it all wrong anyway. But input very much required on any of those aspects. And as I say, right now there are only 3 of us in the team, and I suspect that we will be a little bit short on that front. I'm not saying we need dozens, but I think we're going to need a few. So I'm going to throw it back to you, Bill. But if anyone has any questions, comments, please feel free to get back to me or Cheryl or Christy Sullivan, Cheryl Rice, who's also part of the team and on the call. Feel free to get back to us with suggestions, comments, and volunteering capabilities.
Excellent. Yeah, and Richard, thank you. And just so everybody knows, in the follow-up email, we'll certainly give folks an opportunity to hop in to support any of the teams, and certainly engage is, I think, critical here early on, and it's getting the right people on the boat. So next, it's going to go actually to the marketing team, which is Nan and Eric are sort of buddy leading the marketing team. So they were the ones who penned the survey that went out a week ago that you all responded to, and so I'll flip it to them. What they're looking to do is create a positioning statement for what the summit is, and that placeholder name Summit. But do you want to, Eric, since
sure.
I can get your nonverbals.
We're sitting across the table from each other.
Exactly.
So you can even slap me across the head if I go awry. Okay, hi everybody. Actually, the timing for this is great, and really I'm glad that both Marianne and Jessica are on the phone and talking about Innovation Week, because as Nan and I were kind of talking this up to try and get kind of fodder for this part of our exercise, when we would mention it to somebody, people would say, hey, that sounds just like the Connecticut Innovation Week that's coming up. So I think we have to be cognizant of this universe. What's being created sounds kind of like what we're trying to create, at least from my perspective. I mean, it's kind of expansive, multidisciplinary, multi-industry, and exciting. So we have to just kind of keep that in mind as we try and come up with a positioning for what we're doing. From a positioning statement, it's really, this is kind of the creating the blueprint for the house. Before we start building the house, we've got to know what it's going to be, what it's going to look like. And this little exercise that everyone kindly participated in was to start getting the kind of the brick and mortar together for this architectural creation. And the underlying tenets historically for positioning or positioning statement are fourfold. One, it has to be focused and single-minded. So it can't be like a mission statement that kind of goes all over the place. It has to differentiate the offering or the product or service, or in this case the event, in the minds of the target audience. It has to not only differentiate, but it has to create a preference for that particular product or service, or in this case, event. And finally, you can have, the differentiation and a preference, but finally, it has to motivate people to actually choose, if events are going on at the same time, it has to, or if it's a product or a service, it has to motivate the target audience to act, or in this case, attend. So this exercise is really to focus on a couple of pieces of that to come up with a justifiable statement that we can it's kind of planting a flag. This is where we're at, and we can justify it amongst those 4 tenets, and it is cognizant of the universe that we're playing in, including the new event. So with that said, what I'd like to do is show the group from the input that we got from everyone's survey. The first part of it revolved around 4, 5, or 6 different components. So I think we just kind of have to start, the CT Entrepreneurial Summit, or whatever we call this. Is it a regional event, statewide event, statewide week-long event, New England event, a New England week-long event, or just kind of a general festival or something that doesn't have a geographic center? And what I'd like to do is maybe we can kind of do this live. Either just go around the room, anybody have some thoughts. It would be great to see if we can come to some general consensus. This doesn't have to be set in stone, but if we have it all over the place, then we know that we need more strategic work. Is that a reasonable thing to do, Bill?
Yeah. So on the week-long festival, kind of like a South by Southwest?
That's to be fully honest, that's where I was originally thinking when I first talking with Bill. That would be kind of a Uber South by Southwest, North by Northeast type of thing. So that would be that choice. So, Bill, I'm going to let you start.
Yeah. So I'll give 2 perspectives. One is I love the idea of whether it's week-long or whatever time frame, but a festival, because I think to me that brings in the creative community, which often is left out of entrepreneur activities. And I think the only caution I would have, and this is it, is I think when you go to sell sponsorships, sponsors like things defined, and Connecticut is motivating because it's defined for them. It's not to say that we couldn't create good definition around what the festival is and who the target audience is and so on, but if it's in your title, it does create maybe a little bit more certainty. So that would be.
So if you had to pick one, I got to force you to pick one.
Yeah, sure. I'll go with the week-long festival. I think that's cool.
Okay,
yeah, I think that's fun.
Week-long festival.
Yeah, I define it as Connecticut specific because we don't want to. I think we don't want to drag too much in from New York and Boston, which are on both sides. Let's kind of focus it as Connecticut, and I would tend to be more just a day event, stemming from the awards program, and kind of just as something that recognizes what's going on in the state. And I think we could accomplish that in a day and bring everyone together at one time. If you get into a week-long thing, then you get attendance on the different events that may not be as strong as if you just did a one-day focus event.
Would your vote be a statewide event,
just
singular?
Statewide.
Yeah, we'll just call it statewide for the category.
I think that we focus on the region, but I think it's important to do a state. I would think all of Connecticut really highlighting, so I would say a day-long. I guess region or state, something different.
So
I agree with doing a week-long thing. I think would be takeaway.
So similar to what Tim was talking about.
Yeah.
So we'll do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I guess for me with the week-long festival, is it like smaller events maybe around the state leading up to one culmination event? Because that I could see, especially if we're trying to engage people across the state, it might be hard to do that in one day. So I think if that was a little bit more defined, I'm all for week-long festivals because I think it allows different regions of the state to do something a little bit bigger and then kind of culminate all together.
So in a way, kind of a cornerstone event, but a week-long build-up, not much different than the Venture Class program that we just talked about.
Well, does it have to be in a specific week?
No.
It could be build-up over from months, months, and then maybe that one day is kind of the culmination of things that have happened over the course of several days.
We can talk about some amount of time that leads up to a fixed event or something. So that can be, yeah.
I tend to have a grandoso, do big things outlook. So the week-long festival in Northeast by Northeast would be where I'd want to be a part of something. Getting there, I think, might be a 3 to 5 year window. At this time, to target for a single day with build-up to a single summit, I think is a foundation point. So right now, I would see starting with a regionalized event focusing on Connecticut and the greater Hartford area seems to be where we are.
So which one would you select then from that?
So I would say a regional event with statewide focus. I like the build-up if you had a quarterly multiple event build-up, but the summit itself, I think, should focus in the greater Hartford area.
So regional.
Yeah.
That could lead to other things. Okay.
This is Brenda. I put in the week-long festival primarily to engage Fairfield County, which is basically not, you're not going to get a single event in Hartford that people are going to be part of unless you build up to it with some, and I would say probably the same for Thames region and some Danbury, because we've got geographic barriers here in terms of transport, and if you can focus on a couple of really exciting days that precede and then culminate in the Connecticut Entrepreneurs Awards, I think we would have a shot at doing that in a fairly compressed time frame. And one of the ideas that we threw out was whether or not there could be some preliminary focus on the companies that had been nominated in each of the areas, and then a big push to get everybody up to Hartford for the awards and for
Brenda?
event. Yeah.
Those are perfect points, and a lot of nods here as well. What would you select then in our little list?
I'm wondering which one of the ones I put in there, but I think I called it a statewide week-long event. But I did say don't do anything on Friday because no one will travel on Fridays because of I-95, at least down in our vicinity. It's gridlock from 3 o'clock on Fridays northbound. So my thought would be do your 4 days, have your Thursday culmination in Hartford, and then on Friday in the individual arenas, whether it's Danbury or have a celebratory event for those, a local celebratory event for those companies that were winning the award.
Brenda, I'm just going to have to move along for everyone, but I think that is...
We may even need to move this online, just because we'll go through noon.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dave, go ahead.
So, I think statewide focus of the event, I don't think the event needs to take place in all these different places because I never think you're going to move people like
it's hard, yeah.
It never happens.
I'd agree.
I don't think you need to go a week long out of the gate. I think that's a nice aspiration, but I think a 3-day event is more than reasonable to do, like people get in on Sunday and they leave Wednesday night or something along those lines. And I would just make a suggestion from a middle point. I'm biased because I'm in New Haven, but New Haven, we've done a study. I think it's either 11 or 17 screens and stages within a setting where you can easily move people around at like a South by Southwest where the stages are in multiple places, and that gives you the ability to have multiple types of talks, multiple types of breakout sessions. You can have a design track one day, you can have a technology track one day, you can have a straight entrepreneur, and you can culminate the finish of it with an entrepreneurial piece to it.
Like that.
So I would say statewide focus in one location, but over a 3-day period. If you start to spread people, I mean, everyone keeps getting back to pilgrim thinking, and I don't think that everyone can fight over regions. It has to be where there's a center point of traffic.
Most of these types of festivals are dense, in terms of geographic density, for sure.
I keep on hearing statewide, and I actually think we got to be a bit careful. I mean, I live in Fairfield County. I'm based in New Haven. I have been to Hartford on more than one occasion. And I say that slightly tongue-in-cheek because you'd be stunned how many people who have grown up and lived in Fairfield County have never been to Hartford but are in New York regularly. I think you'd be surprised we watch New York TV stations, we read New York newspapers, most of them barely, literally I've come to people in Fairfield County who struggle to know who the governor of Connecticut is. So, you got two issues there. One is publicizing this in Stamford or Greenwich is far more difficult than publicizing it in Hartford or New Haven. That's one issue. The other thing is people down there just don't go to Hartford, and so it's got to be incredibly appealing to get people to go there. Which means, and if you have events in Stamford going in parallel with events in Hartford, there are good events in Stamford. They just won't go to Hartford.
Right.
And by the way, I hear people from Hartford complaining about coming to Fairfield County too.
It works both ways.
This is Jessica from CT Next, and I'm very glad I've been paying attention on this call, as it seems a lot of the touch points obviously cross over in a number of capacities. I'll be honest, a lot of what you're going through right now is stuff that we've obviously looked at in various capacities and planning some of the stuff that we have going on for Venture Clash, yes, but as we do a lot of stuff statewide, and, tonight we even have our EIA in Stamford, and I'm currently sitting on the Merritt Parkway, sympathetic on all fronts. I would say that just for the sake of sort of summary and what we found, I would echo, and forgive me, I didn't hear the name of the person that said it there at the table. I love Hartford. It is in my backyard for where I live, and there's so much going for it. Obviously, we support a lot of stuff in Hartford, but I think if you're talking about soliciting individuals from elsewhere that are not local, yes, you've got your local, bodies to get there that are going to be a challenge all their own. But you do have to think, if you're talking about having people that would travel, and forgive me, I can't see the screen because, again, I'm in the car to see what's up on it, but Hartford's a little bit tougher to get to from a mass transit standpoint as well, when you're talking about anybody coming into some of the major airports as well. Obviously, Bradley is right there, don't get me wrong, but, New Haven is sort of a transportation central location as well in a lot of capacities, depending on what the focus is from outside bodies. You kind of split the difference then if you're talking about your commuting traffic as well, and if there's a benefit from the screen ratio, which sounds like a great number that I wish I remembered all the statistics on because it's very helpful. We selected New Haven for Venture Clash for a lot of the same reasons it sounds like you're discussing, I guess, is where I come out in summary. And I do think that I agree with Richard. You've got then a little bit more of a vertical climb in getting those coming from south to north. But you perhaps have a little bit less of a battle since you're, again, splitting the difference in a little bit more of a central locale. So I don't think it needs to be in multiple locations to really be statewide. A lot of what we've seen would sort of echo that. But I do think, obviously your messaging and your this network that we've all built here, really we have to sort of be the front line in supporting the initiative regardless of what physical location is selected.
That's great input, Jessica.
I just had a quick question. When you say statewide, are you saying like physically statewide, or are you saying like a focus on statewide businesses?
Engagement statewide.
Yeah.
Not necessarily located.
I think that's what's tying up.
Right.
Like I think the focus should be statewide to start. Like we're not going to be north by northeast, and we're not going to be south by southwest. It's impossible at this point to start with that. It's a nice north star, but to start statewide to bring everybody together to a central place, I don't think it's that hard to go south and bring north.
I'd agree.
And same thing, Hartford south. I think that's a good middle point. I see lots of activity in Fairfield County personally, and people wanting to come up here and see where the money's at, see where the investments are.
All right, we have
to roll.
Sure.
Absolutely.
All right, I think what we'll do is take some of the survey. This is all great input, so it's very worthwhile. You'll be seeing something that'll help prospect on these.
What you end up with after the first 10 people, you end up with a lot of plus ones that are all good, but somewhat waste time too. So we'll get into the details, and so we've got a team actively working on this, and we'll probably send out this info, and I'm going on to their next slide now, which was actually the next question. And again, we can put this all online for you guys to respond to, whether it's a Google Doc or something like that. But definitely key for your input. So Pauline, you understand the time pressures. It is on to the content team. You've got a few slides, so it's on to you, and I'm just going to pass off. So the content team's been considering, again, sort of blue sky, not necessarily having full direction. What are the content possibilities? So, Pauline, on to you.
Yeah, thanks. First of all, we assumed it was a one-day statewide event, but we did recognize that a lot of these questions had to be answered by the other teams. For us, looking at content, the basic question was what content would make the most sense. So our first question was who's going to be in the audience, or who are going to be our attendees. And this is something I think we need some clarity on. Actually, it's pretty clear on the slide. Bill, can you move the slide forward?
You got it. You're moved.
Okay, I don't see it yet.
Refresh your screen. We're on to the next one. It says all stakeholders need.
Okay,
Yep.
so if we assume all of those stakeholders are involved, in other words, Richard, your comment about including corporations, we had not considered that as a stakeholder, but certainly if those are sponsors, that would be a great stakeholder to include too. So we didn't address those needs, but we recognized that we had two problems. First of all was the content, what are we going to provide? And we assumed it was education, professional development, and networking. And then we also had physical needs. So what the event space looked like, that comment about where it's going to be located, whether Hartford or New Haven, that's obviously a prime consideration. We would adapt to whatever the space was, but we do recognize there are some significant issues relative to breakouts, but then we need tables for exhibitors, and so that's a consideration for us. Move the slide along.
Thank you. Next slide. Suggestions.
Yep.
Do demand research?
Yeah, two very clear suggestions came about. Obviously, because we need to find out what are the needs of the participants, and we recognize that networking is probably one of the more important things that we want to achieve.
Sorry, guys.
Michaela and Molly developed a demand application that we could send out to the folks that Richard et al. Are identifying as potential engagers, and we would use that to figure out who's interested and what do they want to find out. I don't know, Bill, can we provide that application on a drive that everybody can access and comment?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, that's what we're thinking of doing.
Yeah, just send me the link.
Slide.
Yep.
Well, you're already copied on the document.
Okay. I just so I know when it's done and you want me to send it out, just send me the link so I know it's ready for publication.
Got it. Our final issues that we need to determine what the content should be and what the physical space should look like, and therefore how are we going to accommodate the networking opportunities. But here are the things we know we still need to consider. We need to evaluate the event. We need to actually figure out what the physical layout will be, given the space that we've decided on. We need day of program information mechanism and therefore a subcommittee to handle all the programming and logistics. And we need a budget.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Well, more to come, but it sounds like you guys are doing good work. We'll look forward to seeing your application. So I'm going to move on to Ryan and the special events team, and he's kept us in the dark. I'm sure there's going to be great stuff.
Yeah, I was golfing when you sent your email this morning. So, kind of what Pauline was just saying, some of in the marketing and finding the focus of the event will help drive the special events. But what we talked on was we thought getting away from doing a pitch event focus and having some type of demo fest where people with tangible products can show them off and there's voting and there's a winner for that. Having some type of grant as well attached to this. We also talked on a matchmaking session or speed networking with different breakout sessions that would entice people to come. We had the focus that this would be a day-long event is kind of what we were talking on originally with this. The talks today, if it's going to be a multi-focus, building up to one large event, change as well. We spitballed a couple ideas for keynote speakers. A big part of that would come into the budgeting. Are we going to pay for a keynote? Are we looking for someone to donate their time? That'll change the focus there as well. We kind of figured provide value for entrepreneurs, education, networking is the focus. With that, the matchmaking, having a demo fest, getting angel investors there, different categories, different breakout sessions that we want to do.
Cool. Awesome.
Can I throw out a crazy idea?
Yeah, Dave, go ahead.
Have like a concert, have like a
Yeah, we have
a headliner.
Well, that's right.
Yeah, so for those
South by Southwest.
For those that are on the phone, Dave spoke a little light. So he said, how about a concert?
Great.
Get some headliner, get, the creative community.
Finish it with somebody big and a big name. Like, the problem that we have is that we're not cool, right? We're not cool.
Speak for yourself.
We have, it's entrepreneurs, it has to attract people, it has to attract talent, it has to have all the elements, and part of that has to be some element of cool. So maybe a final should be not the typical, all that stuff that's mentioned is everybody's same spiel for every event that we do. I feel like punching in with, we've got a kid that won American Idol in Brantford, right? Throw him up on stage as an opener. I'm sure he would do it for nothing for the state. Follow it up with a bigger name, maybe two bigger names. Culminate it with a celebration. Bring some energy to the table. We have to bring energy to these things. It can't just be the same boring entrepreneurial, innovative startup bullshit.
That's the biggest concern that I have, that it ends up
South by
being some work.
Southwest was a music festival.
Yeah, and then
then a film festival, then an innovation festival.
Yeah, we're kind of. My biggest fear is that it's some neat workshops. There's going to be a couple of keynotes or whatever, but it doesn't have any the energy.
What do you mean? No differentiation.
It doesn't hit on all those. You can put that in Omaha, and then you get the same result. So that's my biggest. Just I'm laying that on the table. That's my biggest fear.
Yeah, this is Brenda. I have been proposing showcasing as opposed to pitches, money pitches. That's really the Connecticut Innovation Week. That's a terrific initiative. But if we stay away from money pitches and let these demos flow, we had set out a model where we could, in one day, showcase 100 companies in the state in one place. And, with people moving in and out in 5 different sort of vertical tracks with a lot of networking, and the idea at the end to have the Connecticut Entrepreneurial Awards and then some big blast concert, a headline concert for people to stay and celebrate. That was one of the ways that we were hoping to see things go.
Yeah, the benefit of the showcase is that everyone leaves changed perception of Connecticut because they're seeing all the things that actually are going on.
Yeah, exactly.
I would also say, too, that I attended a conference recently internationally that had a really good bit of content that was sort of like this, right? It was more show and tell based, and it was by invite only, so maybe the format's a little different here. But I will say that there was a lot of really cool new energy because it was all show and tell from an early stage perspective. So something like that really is an interesting format. And then if you did have a culminating thing at the end, for the reason to stay, right? For the conclusion and the final loop of networking. But certainly that's an interesting format and kind of keeps it fresh as well.
Dave, what did you say? Go ahead.
So if you ask 10 people that have been to South by Southwest minimum 3 times, why they go, you'll get different answers, right? Some people go for the breakout sessions. The first year I went to all the breakout sessions. I was like, which one am I going to go to and all this stuff? And then after that, you're like, it's the same shit. People pontificating, panels suck, blah, 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 blah. Why do you go there? You go there to party and meet people and network. And half the times, even the most professional people, I'm not going to name names, but I've seen people in this state there that have been just absolutely shit-faced, right? So how I would approach this is I'd say fake it till you make it, right? What do they have? They have restaurants that get rented out for a 3-day period of time by a brand, right? Instead of getting the sponsor to pay for some of the things, see if we can start to manufacture after and networking and give the allure that it's becoming something that it's not going to start off. Because if you just go with a plain vanilla summit, it's going to take 10 years for this thing to mature if it ever happens, or it's going to fizzle out. I feel like you got to just keep it tight and create some. Even if you fake it, literally, if you fake it, you could have a concert happening here at 5 o'clock at the end of the summit, and then there's a networking thing that's hosted by the healthcare such and such venture group, and you know what I mean, spread it out a little bit within a region where people can bounce around.
It has to be something like
that.
that.
That's energy. That's where you get the energy from.
We could have a big concert in Dunkin' Donuts Park.
There you go. I think all these things, because it's all good for Hartford, or the state, and we need to be aggressive, be creative. I can tell you, if this becomes kind of a prefab, I'm out of it. I'm not going to be involved in that. It has to be something big, exciting, with a big vision. It doesn't have to be multi-days. It can start with something small, but really creative with a lot of energy and with little balls.
Yeah, I think if anything, wording release or harnessing the energy and all that, I think that's the biggest problem we have. We don't have a problem learning things and listening to speakers and finding panels. You can do that shit anywhere online, go to places, and all that stuff. What we need to do is the energy in this state is bad, right? It's bad politically, it's bad financially, it's bad. Everyone's pointing at everyone else. We have to raise the energy up with a summit like this. So we should focus on the points of energy where people are going to get excited, and less so on the minutia of
curriculum and things like that.
Absolutely. Cool.
I
agree.
Well, we're getting a lot of nodding heads here in the room. We can't tell virtually, unfortunately, but hopefully that's resonating with you all. We have just a couple other things to mention, and then we'll just talk for a second about next steps and go from here. So I'll send out an email on this, but we're going to do, for those that aren't familiar, LaunchEasy powers our statewide entrepreneur event calendar. We're going to do a brown bag session on that a week from Monday, so Monday, June 26th. There's some of you are already on it. Actually, many of you are, and that's great. There's probably additional functionality that you don't know about. Tim has been adding a lot of new features that you could take advantage of. So we're going to do a brown bag info session at noon on the 26th. I'll send out a calendar invite and some more information, but just know that it's coming. And then, so where we're going from here, and we want, so all the teams have additional work, and it maybe even to back up from this just for a second, is we've had, many of the teams have been doing great work. There periodically are folks that talk about the lack of time they have and the ability to participate. Just so it's really, really clear, is we use the word team for a very specific reason. Teams are temporary. Teams are meant to essentially accomplish something defined, and then they dissolve, and maybe another team is formed to take it further. Committees are more permanent, and committees, once we're established, may be what we end up forming, and there'll be some kind of time-bound rotation on and off committees. But we're in the formation stage, and we're sort of we're creating a chemical reaction, which takes generally a high amount of energy, and then you get to a place where you can sustain. So all of the teams that are formed have probably no more than a 2 or 3 month lifespan. And what we want to do is we want to sort of get sort of this formation stage through, so we can move on to sort of the execution of what we agree to do or don't agree to do. And all of that is good. But for those that are sort of concerned about time, this is a very short-term effort to sort of get us to an end zone. And again, we're not looking for anything to be fully baked, but we need it to be baked enough that we can move on and actually begin executing on various things. So we need sort of the engagement team. Your goal is to get a list together. We need to identify the people we need to get off the bench, and all we need are really email addresses, and we can begin getting them off the bench, whether those are additional associations and organizations or whether those are corporations. We can begin that process. But again, we just need to know who's not yet in the room. Awful hard to get people to take ownership if they weren't part of the formation stage, and we need people to own this. It's really, really key. They have to be a part of sort of coming up with a vision, and each of the other teams, again, just keep moving forward. We'll talk independently here and make sure that things are real clear for you. But Tim, did you have a comment?
I mean, I don't know if everyone else thinks the same way. I think we need a couple of anchoring decisions to be made in terms of, are we going to do in order for some of the communities to really move forward, like what is that exact positioning statement, and is it going to be a one-day thing or a week-long thing, so we can kind of make movement in the committee.
To it, right.
So I'm not sure,
Sure.
How does that happen, and does that happen before August, or are we expected to kind of move along with the committee and kind of
Yeah, I would
decide that moment.
say, I mean, is it reasonable, Eric, that we can, in the next few days, get out a questionnaire or
we get
survey?
that questionnaire out,
Yeah.
almost like what we have here with a couple of tweaks, get some consensus. I think there is some generally building consensus from what I've heard, that it's maybe a single day thing that has all kinds of legs. It's really powerful. I think that might be the most doable and also extensible in years after that. So, but let's see where the trend is. But I think there is a kind of a pulse that's happening here. So, and we can do that in a couple of days. We'll work together to get that.
I think a little summary of what we've talked about, and then just a simple survey of some kind. But yeah, no, we clearly need something to align to for sure. And so so the next meeting's tentatively planned for Tuesday, August 8th at 11 a.m. I'm going to suggest that the next one we do in New Haven, just simply to get another, make sure that those that want to attend live can attend live, and we do that.
Just want to let you know that particular week is problematic for a number of people who are on the call.
Okay.
Because it overlaps with a week-long effort with CT Next and the Venture Clash, Camp Venture. There's an on-site. So
we go to the following week, or
I just know this week, and Jessica or could also speak to that. But it is problematic based on.
Okay, we can move a week back. That's any major conflict?
Jessica, am I remembering the date right?
Yes, you are. Yeah, it's going to be the week of the 7th through the 11th. So, yeah, preferably a different week, but depending on the time of day, we could certainly try to work around it and be conscious of schedules if need be.
Right, we'll move to the 15th. That's not a problem. That would be a week later. Okay. Well, good stuff. Definitely appreciate it. That's my last slide, so I must be done. And those that are driving, drive safely. And you'll see a communication come out, I would say probably a summary of this meeting within a day or two, and then we'll get out the survey over the next few days so that you have that as well. And we'll create some good clarity, I think, where there may not be. So in any event, you all have a great rest of your day, and thank you for participating, and I think we'll move this ball forward pretty quick.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay, thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
And goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.